Okay, but a brief moment about Exozet. We're a digital agency based in Berlin. We're working for companies like Siemens, Audi, in education, in training, in marketing experiences, in the field of virtual reality. We also do a lot of other stuff, like, for example, the ZDF Mediathek. If you use that before, that's created by Exozet. I'm responsible for the VR/AR department, and I'm going to tell you today about one of our showcases. And just as a heads up, you can try this showcase on the exhibition area. So when I'm showing you videos, that's not really the same as experiencing it in VR, as you all know, so you should take the chance and look at it later. This gigantic screen isn't doing the best for the resolution of the videos I'm going to show you. So the starting point here was to build an experience for Audi where we have major points that we wanted to cover. Experience dynamics and sportivity with all senses. We wanted to excite people worldwide and make them curious about what's going to come, and build up suspense for the product launch of the first fully electric car from Audi. And by that also underline the innovative brand image. So this is the car that it's about. It was actually the concept version, and it's going to be released soon. It's still not released, and we created the first version of this experience last year, and it's under constant development and modification for further different scenarios and different cars. It started at the Formula E race, so there was a conceptual challenge here. First of all, it is a marketing experience that you're supposed to experience in only a few minutes, but then there's so much you could cover in that, because we're supposed to include a Formula E car. We're also supposed to include the new e-tron. Do we cover interior and exterior? Do we have a story? Is it more about facts? Is it more about feeling? How do we handle interactivity? And I'm going to cover some of those stuff. So the major point for us was we needed to focus. And one of the key elements for us was to this headline, feeling is believing. So we decided to use wind machines to emphasize on one feature of electric cars, super fast acceleration. That was one of the major key points we wanted to cover. I'm going to show you a little bit of the experience here. So as I said, I encourage you to try it out, and I guarantee you no one will get sick, because that's probably in some of your minds now, but we designed it in a way that you wouldn't get sick. This is kind of a narrowed down version of a 1-hour talk, so I'll try to give you some ideas of what was important for us and how we designed this. We wanted a flexibility in the solution to be able to use it over a long time, because Audi is used to making commercials for TV that millions of people see it within weeks, and then they can never use them again, basically. And this is a different approach, because you can only get so many people through virtual reality at an event. You have to make sure you can use that same setup for a longer time. So we decided to use a setup that is very flexible but very immersive at the same time. You can see the wind machines here. You can see the very simple setup. We don't have a simulation approach of of an hoverboard, but we just have a kind of very simple version of a hoverboard sitting there. And then that allowed us to use this experience in different kinds of locations and events worldwide. We used it at sporting events, Formula E in Munich, in Berlin, in Barcelona. It was used at the Montreal Motor Show, Toronto Auto Show, Berlinale, in Paris, in Rome, in Taiwan, in Beirut. So it really traveled the world. And that was only possible because it's such a flexible but still super immersive setup. And also we developed in a way from the storyline and from the unfolding that you can easily switch out different cars and environments. So we have this experience actually working with, currently working with 3 different environments and 5 different cars, and there's more to come without changing major elements of the story. And it's also for trade show experiences like that is super important that it's very accessible, because it's often the first VR experience for people. So we're not trying to explain interface in our experiences. We're just trying to throw the people in and experience it themselves. That means we need to include a lot of natural interaction. First, we wanted to have a little more interactivity, and we prototyped a lot, and we tried things like these, which in theory work really well, and also in practice work really well. So you're painting kind of a path of the cars to follow, and then AI makes the cars actually travel that path, and they can. You have a lot of control over the cars, but really to do this right, you would need 10 to 15 minutes to really experience it. So we didn't go that route. We also had more interactivity for this hoverboard, that you can actually steer it, while kids in the age of 10 enjoyed it very much. Most people, it was just too much at the moment to also learn controlling the sport, and so we also didn't include it. And there's also the trade-off between interactivity and staging. When you have something like that, you want to give the people a feeling of immersion. So at this moment, for example, the user is in control, but he doesn't have to press buttons or anything. It's a situation that can very easily read. You between 2 racing cars, you have this flag in your hand, so you're just waving the flag, but you feel so immersed because you are in control. And there's another moment in this experience where 2 cars are going around you, and it looks really impressive in virtual reality. The cars are also really loud in contrast to the Formula E cars. And the electric cars, but then here you could have followed either one of the cars, but for capturing the attention, they're crossing their ways at one point, and this is of course the point where the hero car, the most important car, is coming in. So we make sure the attention of the user is actually where we want it, even though he could be looking anywhere. And this is another moment, and you already learned that moment before. You can again have a closer look at the car, but you can also decide when you want it to go on with the experience. At the same time, we make sure you can't do too much at that moment, because we want to make sure the people are out of the experience after 3 minutes. So there's always a trade-off in how you build up this concept. And what was really, really key for us, we wanted them to have moments to remember. So it's already contextualized with Audi branding at the booth where you're experiencing this. So it wasn't really so important to put a lot of messaging about the brand and inside of the experience. But we wanted you to connect that brand with something of your own embodied experience of that brand. So we included moments like this here. And what a moment like that does is, it really, while you're already on this hoverboard, and you have never been on a hoverboard in your life, you're going along a car that you've never seen in your life, and then you're jumping a ramp, and it's just putting this little extra highlight to you, or you already have adrenaline in your body, and this is giving you the extra kick that you're going to remember. So You see, this is there are a lot of design decisions that have to go into this to make it feel right for a broad audience, and I already mentioned these first moments, and you're kind of connecting them in your brain. You're connecting this first experience of riding a hoverboard with seeing the Audi branded car, and because it sticks to your memory, this moment, that's then it's also very effective for marketing. So the intensity of this is much more than seeing a commercial. This is feedback, and this is an unfiltered word cloud. It is from a German event, so it's mostly German feedback. But there, we asked them to enter one word in a form of how they thought this experience was, and the more people said that word, the bigger it is here. And we have 0 negative words in there. We have 0 neutral words. They were all blown away. So when you create marketing experience, make them accessible, make it really intense, individual, make it engaging, but also don't do too much to not confuse the user. Doing things like that, a couple of remarks. Ask yourself, is this what you do really truly user-centered? How much freedom do you need? How much staging do you need? Because if you just throw the user into something and he doesn't know what to do, it's not gonna impress him within only 2 to 3 minutes. And is this what you're trying to do? Would this be better in a different medium? Then don't do it in VR. And don't stick to the facts too much. I know it's sometimes hard to convince a client not to stick to the facts, but the experience in the medium of VR is obviously much more important than just, for example, we could have stated 500 kilometers battery range, but do you care within that experience to reading this? Probably not so much. And focus your experience. You can't do everything in such a short experience. So that was my very brief introduction to this, and feel free to visit us at the how is it called, the exhibition area, and you can try it yourself, and we can of course talk more about the possibilities, but also this experience if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Unfortunately, we don't have time for Q&As at the moment. Moving on to our second speaker. Brace yourselves. She's Ioulia Isserlis. She's the co-founder and CEO of AnotherWorld VR, a content and VR production studio that focuses on creating cinematic and narrative-driven VR experiences. And today she's going to be talking about their latest project, Cobalt, which combines linear film and interactive VR horror. Ioulia. The stage is yours. Did you choose your mic? What's your mic of choice?
This one.
Amazing.
Is it working?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So now to something completely different, horror. I'm Ioulia, I'm the CEO of AnotherWorld VR. Like, we do a lot of B2B stuff to Deutsche Bahn, to Microsoft, but our passion is our creative projects. And our creative projects are funnily only horror. It was not planned before, but it came out like that. So today I'm going to speak about Cobalt. It's a game that was released on Halloween on the Oculus Store and Viveport, and just yesterday on Steam. So make sure to buy it immediately after my talk. So Cobalt is first a horror film. Can we put the lights down a little bit, because everything is going to be very dark in this presentation. So we shot a short film in Brandenburg, and the film is set in the 1970s in East Germany, in the GDR, and the film has an open ending. So basically, after watching it, you leave your passive spectator role behind, and you become the active protagonist of the VR experience. So you enter the actual film set. We scanned the whole film set. We scanned the whole villa where we filmed the film. And you decide the outcome of the storyline. So this is Cobalt, and basically the idea behind it was actually a childhood dream of mine. I always, when I watched the film, afterwards I imagined how the film would continue with me in it, and how I would myself decide how the film ends. And this is the realization of that dream, and I think all of us dreamt to basically be part of whether Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, or Star Wars. And here you can see a little bit of the film and of the aesthetics. And here's the VR experience. So basically we made it, we tried to make it as photorealistic and as cinematic as possible. As I already mentioned, we scanned the whole villa that is somewhere in Brandenburg. I cannot unfortunately tell where the location is. The villa itself is extremely scary. Like it's wolves were living in it before, so basically we were filming and just like constantly stepping in wolf poo, and we had also to sleep in that house, and we were listening to wolves howling. So it was like actually like the perfect, really like the perfect environment for a horror film and a game. And we also scanned our actors. So basically, the boy that you're going to see in the film and his father, we scanned them with our scan rig, and made a photorealistic 3D model out of them, and then recorded the movements in motion capture to make it as photorealistic and as cinematic as possible. The idea behind Cobalt is authentic horror. Like we worked in horror for a long time, and we were a bit, or I personally am a bit tired of vampires and zombies. And we wanted to create a narrative which is based on something new, which is in this case something very old. So Cobalt is a reimagination of an ancient evil. It's inspired by Nordic mythology, by European folklore, and by fairy tales, by, for instance, Grimm's fairy tales, as you all know, are not as Disney as they actually are in reality. They're brutal. And
Cobalt is a new kind of horror experience.
Our
that
trailer
begins with a short film about a little boy named Casper who is dealing with the loss of his mother by pouring his imagination into Germanic fairy tales and by playing with his invisible friend Pixie. When Pixie offers him a way to see his mother again, Casper embarks on a journey that takes him deep into a dark world he may never return from. The story then continues in virtual reality. You put on a VR headset and become the main character, an urban explorer that breaks into the house where Casper went missing 40 years ago. In order to find out what happened to Casper and his family, you will have to gather clues, solve puzzles, and come face to face with an ancient evil.
So the difficulties that we had in production, like me and my co-founder Max, I think a couple of you also know him very well. We have a film background, and basically, like when we were writing gameplay for Cobalt, we were thinking like film people, and we learned during the production that it's the wrong kind of thinking. It's basically whatever you write in a script, it's not probably not gonna stay in the script. You have to test everything out. VR is, as you all know, like it's a completely different dimension, and we had to learn for I think like half a year, like it was like for 3 years ago, how narrative in VR really works, and it's very, very different from film. Here, a couple of slides also to photorealism, which was another, I would say, interesting aspect of this production, because we just started it 4 years ago with the idea of making VR experiences, and we were constantly thinking, what's the best way to do it photorealistic? We, of course, heard of photogrammetry because it's used for post-production and for VFX for a long time, but the biggest problem was virtual humans. Right, so for now, I have to say, like, the result that we have is not optimal to scan a human and then to use motion capture, and I believe volumetric capture is also not optimal at the moment. So actually, for our next game, we're gonna try to combine those two, to scan the body, but then to scan the face of the actor through volumetric capture. So we're still on it, and this is still, I think, a challenge for all VR producers. Right now, a small game, like for you here, if it works, the video. So one is our seller, filmed, and the other one is photogrammetry in engine. Here you have the answer. By the way, that's the seller of our office. I don't know why we always choose these creepy settings. And here are a couple of, it's so dark. Couple of screenshots from Cobalt and our VR humans. That's the optimal result that we can get from photogrammetry and from facial photogrammetry too. So we also work together with softwares like Faceware that are actually the perfect partner when it comes to that. But as I said, we're going to try to do volumetric the next time. This is our wonderful team. It's basically all VR enthusiasts and all behind all projects and really like pioneers in this field. And it's this game and all of our experiences are a team effort. And I forgot our head of human resources, which is my husky Kodak. But yeah, this is Cobalt, and our next project is going to be an escape room, a horror escape room for a new upcoming Wiedemann and Berg and Sky series, Pagan Peak. And we're going to use the same techniques there. And yeah, check it out.
Thank you, Ioulia. That's very interesting how we started with marketing and cars, moved into horror, and now we are going to talk a bit about something quite poetic and artistic, which I had the pleasure actually to try out. So yes, our last speaker in this session is Susanne Dickel. She's a co-founder of IntoVR. She's Germany's first and probably most experienced VR journalist, having produced over 75 immersive stories, mostly in 360 video. And today she's talking about the project Sequence of a Horse in Motion. Thank you, Susanne.
Yes, about the VR part of it. So yeah, we are a small video production company focused on 360 video and storytelling, based here in Berlin. And yeah, we, with the help of a great team, we produced this special experience. Can you start the video? Or shall I do that myself? Do you have sound? That's strange. Okay. So yeah, that's what we actually do. We hang up people upside down right in the air. So 1 year ago, Katharina Haverich came to us. What? Katharina Haverich came up to us with a pretty crazy idea. And as we were working in this field, like we went, for example, to Iraq to accompany some Peshmerga soldiers in their fight against ISIS soldiers. So talking about crazy ideas, we have some experience, but that was really special. Katharina Haverich is actually here. She's sitting up somewhere over here, so you can talk to her. She's an artist and focused on, for example, performance and the field of live art. So yeah, her idea was based on the dream she had to have a person hanging upside down in the air and a horse walking in circles around this person and wrapping the person up with a ribbon. So this video you can see here is from the premiere at 48 Hours in Neukölln. So this is the performance shown by the artist Momo. But of course, in the performance, you have this focus on the live situation. Of course, you can do this performance a few times, but it's always for the audience. You can just look at it, and that's the same goes for the documentation, traditional documentation like on video or photo. You can just view it from the outside. And Katharina wanted to kind of break this barrier. She wanted to create a new relationship between art, between the performance and, sorry, the spectator. Luckily, she got the support by the Medium Board to create this VR experience sequence of a horse in motion to break this boundary. So before we started to do that, we had quite a few things to consider. For example, do we actually need a body? For example, we were thinking about, okay, shall we animate a body, for example? Or do we put a camera underneath the performance artist, Momo? Like when he's doing it, do we just put a camera on his head? And how do we manage to, that he doesn't have a big problem with this extra weight from the camera? That was one thing that we were really thinking about. What happens with the arms? Like you might have seen that he was waving his arms. And what shall the user do with the arms? Isn't it really crazy if you see the arms of Momo when he's waving and doing anything? Or is it crazy if you have just an animated body that is stiff like that and you want to move your arms? Does it bring you out of the immersion? Or actually, where do we place the camera? Do we have to hang it upside down as well? And what kind of camera do we choose? We did several tests, quite a few tests, and here my colleague Martin is doing the horse. So you see we had some back-to-back camera, a camera like this one, and tried as well how it feels like to be wrapped up with a ribbon and get some looks from outside. And in the end, we decided to shoot with this camera, Condau Obsidian. And we had as well spatial audio, not with the zoom you can see up there, that's just for backup. We actually had spatial audio produced by Thomas Wallmann. So we had quite a huge team, at least for the production that we are doing normally. We had several great artists and great people who helped us to bring that to life. For example, this is Julian Kampnagel, who was a advisor. We shot at Schloss Berlin, which helps artists to create art, and as a great venue, a great location to do that. We had audio and light artists and technicians for the sound design, light design. And the most important part probably were the two horse trainers who explained the horses not to cross the stitch lines. We were at first, like you see, this horse that's how it's running in the video as well. So it's running free. There's no one guiding it around. It's really running free. So we had just a few commands to tell the horse, okay, keep on walking or come to the camera. And please don't go close to the camera, but not too close, and not now, but then. So I was really impressed by the work of those horse trainers who did an amazing job to train the horse and make it not cross the stitch lines. And then that was from one of the very first impressions, and as you can see, the first impression of the video was good, but of course that's not exactly what we really wanted to have in the end. We actually wanted to have someone hanging upside down. So yeah, that's what we did. We hang ourselves and lots of other people upside down in the air and made ourselves as horses, wrapping up the people with the ribbon. And yeah, you can see here that there's another problem. How do you make how can you let the headset stay on the head? Because usually headsets are designed that they just rest on the nose. But if the nose is like above, that's kind of a problem. So during the whole process of doing that, we saw several problems that we didn't think about, and other things were really not a problem at all. Like we thought for such a long time about what we do with the body, and in the end, the body really didn't matter. You're really not thinking about the body when you're in that experience. So another thing was to find the right length of the spot of the video, because the first people we hang upside down were like, it's not too comfortable, and actually it takes quite a lot of time to raise up people in the air. So we were like, okay, we don't want to make the video too long for people feeling uneasy, so that they come down to earth pretty soon. We worked as well on additional effects. So, for example, we had some fog during the shooting, and then we thought, no, a fog is actually not necessary. The experience itself is already so overwhelming. Being hung up in the air and seeing that in VR, you really don't need any more kind of distraction. And another thing that is really important is the synchronization between being wrapped up with the ribbon in real reality and the video you see. So if like the horse is here, so the horse is really walking around you like this, and you're in the middle, and the person who is wrapping up you is like there, and the horse is there, it feels a bit strange. Or if the person is still walking and wrapping you up and the horse already stopped. So that was a kind of issue to find the right timing to do that. And then you see it's VR experience where the location is very important. You can see here that's the rebuilt location, the rebuilt arena from as I told you, we shot in Schloss Berlin, which is somewhat about an hour drive outside of Berlin. And we rebuilt that shooting spot here in Berlin in the Vollgutlager for the live performance, but as well for the for this VR experience, to make the audience to give the audience the possibility to view that. We rebuilt this whole place with you see it's not gravel, it's this kind of bedding that you need for horses, for example, that you can see there. So that was a very important part of the whole experience, to give the people really the impression of entering the dream, because the whole location the whole venue gave the feeling of kind of otherworldliness, to be as well a lonely, small person in this whole huge hall that you enter there. And then you meet two people who are very, very, very important as well. As we call them, Weltenüberleiter. You could translate that to guides for the transfer to another world. And they had a very important role, on the one hand, to be the horse and wrap up the person. So they were walking around the person hanging up there in the air. But before as well, they had to explain what's going on, and most importantly, give a feeling of security. Because, of course, for many people, actually for everyone who went there, that was the very first time to be hung up in the air. So for some people, it's a bit distressing to be hung up like this. So it was very important that they were calm and gave this feeling of security. And as well, they had to wear this kind of costume or uniform as well, to give this ritualized feeling. The whole thing was very ritualized situation in which watching the film is actually just a small part. Actually, if you just watch the film without having this whole experience, it doesn't make any sense. Well, it makes some sense, but you just see a horse walking around you. But you really don't get the idea of it if you don't have this whole process. Like for the audience, the spectators, they were walking along a long passage, a long dark passage towards the venue, towards the arena. They got this explanation what was happening. They had to put down anything that could fall out of their pockets. They had to get off their shoes. And then the person is raised in the air. As I said, that takes quite some time because it's really slow so that you can get accustomed to that feeling. And then you get equipped with the headset, start the film, watch the film, and get down to earth. So it really takes some time to do the whole thing. And it's, as I said, it's a really very ritualized situation in which you are. So our learnings from this was that from the experience that we showed in the Vollgutlager is that lots of people actually really watched the whole thing. So that was as well very important to Katharina, that you have to be brave to watch this, to experience this thing, that you have to be kind of brave to be part of this art and to, it's as well kind of physical, like hanging upside down in the air. You get your blood in the head, and maybe your feet start to feel a bit numb, or maybe even hurt a little bit. So it's a very physical experience as well. But this personal and physical commitment to experiencing her art was very important for Katharina. And as Thomas Bedenk just mentioned, moments to remember, actually that whole thing was for everyone a complete whole moment of remembering, because no one so far had been hanging upside down in the air. In a situation like that, and that combined with the VR was for everyone a really, really special experience. So I think 2 persons broke up because they said, they feel uneasy, but the rest of them, all of them, wanted to watch it and wanted to experience it. And they said, surprisingly for us, that it is too short. So actually we're working, and Katharina is already working on a longer experience to give the people more time hanging upside down. On the other hand, you have to consider that it's still quite a huge effort. So you need, as you have seen, you need this whole venue space. You need 2 persons who guide you through this whole experience. So it might not be as open as it could be, but it definitely opens a new relationship between art and the artist, between the audience and the artist, and between the audience and the art itself. So that was a very special situation for all of us, and a very great success.